Have you ever noticed how the dreaming brain is basically just a glitchy Hollywood blockbuster?
Oh, absolutely. It's wild.
Like, you wake up from this incredibly vivid, bizarre mix of Inception, The Matrix, and Stranger Things?
Only to realize the grand climax of this epic narrative was just
Yeah.
you showing up to a high school math test without your pants on.
Yes, exactly. It is so weird. We all go through it. But what if that weirdness isn't just random noise? Welcome to the Deep Dive Lab.
I am so excited for this one.
Me too. Our mission today, we are exploring the ultimate virtual reality headset that we all strap on every single night, our dreaming brain.
It really is one of the most profound biological mysteries we have.
Right. And using a massive stack of fascinating recent research papers, we are going to decode exactly why we dream, who we dream about, and why our brains insist on making those nighttime narratives so incredibly strange.
We spend roughly a third of our lives completely unconscious, and a huge portion of that time is spent immersed in these highly vivid, hallucinatory simulations.
A lot of time.
It is. Today, our deep dive is pulling from a truly diverse array of academic sources to figure out what is actually happening in there.
We've got a lot of ground to cover.
We do. We are going to look at a 2025 preprint analyzing the social networks of our dreams, a fascinating 2021 paper from the journal Patterns on the Overfitted Brain, a comprehensive 2022 thesis on consciousness from the University of Turku, and a brand new framework called the ARM model from the International Journal of Dream Research.
And when you weave all these different perspectives together,
Evolutionary biology, cognitive neuroscience, computational theory.
a surprisingly unified picture starts to emerge. Your dreaming brain is not just resting on standby, it is executing highly specific, complex operations.
Exactly. So where should we start?
Let's crack into the first major concept we found because it completely changed how I view nightmares.
Oh, the danger room concept.
Yeah, if you think about the danger room from the X-Men comics or maybe the tutorial level in a survival horror video game.
Right, that safe, controlled space where the game teaches you how to dodge and fight before the real monsters show up.
Yes. Our sources suggest that dreaming is essentially an ancient evolutionary danger room.
That is a perfect framework for the threat simulation theory. This was prominently tested by researchers Antti Revonsuo and Kachavalli from the University of Turku.
And they published their findings in the journal PICYCE, right?
They did. The core premise goes back to our ancestral environment. Daily reality for early humans was fraught with constant physical peril.
Predators, rival groups.
Precarious weather, dangerous terrain, all of it. Their theory argues that the primary biological function of dreaming was the simulation of threatening events.
So it allowed early humans to repeatedly rehearse threat perception.
And threat avoidance responses, yeah.
Yeah.
All in a low-cost, completely risk-free virtual environment.
And the data they pulled to prove this is wild. They analyzed 592 home-based dream reports from 52 normal subjects.
Which is a huge sample size for dream diaries.
It really is. And in plain English, they found that dreams massively overrepresent threatening events compared to our actual waking lives.
Oh, by a landslide.
Get this. 79% of the subjects reported at least one life-threatening event in their dream diaries.
Wow.
On average, there was one threatening event for every 122 words in a dream report.
That is incredibly dense.
Right. That means if you dream for just 15 minutes, you are highly likely to encounter a severe threat. But in our modern waking lives, we definitely aren't facing mortal peril every 15 minutes. We're usually just sitting on the couch.
The researchers actually developed a specific dream threat rating scale to quantify all this chaos. They found that aggression, escapes, and frantic pursuits were incredibly common across the board.
But the crucial detail is how the dreamer responds.
Exactly. That's the why of it all. The dream self is usually the target of the threat, and the dream self almost always takes defensive action. When the threat was fatally dangerous in the dream, the subjects were significantly more likely to realize a relevant defensive reaction, like running, hiding, or fighting back.
Rather than just freezing or standing there.
Right. This points to an ancient evolutionary adaptation. By constantly rehearsing these life-or-death scenarios at night, ancestral humans increased their probability of successful threat avoidance in the real world.
Which directly led to increased reproductive success.
You survive the tiger, you pass on your genes.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
If my brain is running these simulations to keep me safe from physical threats, why don't I ever dream about actual wilderness survival? I am rarely running from a saber-toothed tiger.
That's a fair point.
Mostly, my nightmares are just me being late for a flight or my teeth suddenly falling out into my hands or forgetting a presentation. How is my teeth falling out of threat simulation?
That is the fascinating intersection of ancient hardware and modern software.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
The evolutionary mechanism, the threat simulator, was built millions of years ago to handle immediate physical danger. But today, the threats you face are largely psychological and social.
Oh, I see.
The brain takes that ancient alarm system and applies it to modern anxieties. Being late for a flight or failing a presentation are massive threats to your modern social standing and your livelihood.
That makes a lot of sense.
Even the teeth falling out dream, which is incredibly common, is often linked by psychologists to feelings of powerlessness or losing control.
So the simulator is still running. It has just generalized the concept of danger to fit the modern world.
Precisely.
So think about what stands out to you about the nightmares you've had. Have you ever noticed how your dream self usually takes that defensive action?
Running down a hallway, slamming doors.
Trying to shout for help. Your brain is running a fire drill. But if we aren't really running from wild animals much anymore, the simulator has to adapt. It focuses on what matters most to our modern survival, which brings us to our social networks.
Because social survival is just as critical to human evolution as physical survival. Maybe even more so for our species.
Which leads right into the social simulation theory.
Yes. Jarno Tuominen explored this deeply in his 2022 thesis from the University of Turku, titled Consciousness Unbound.
And he argues that dreams are highly structured virtual realities specifically designed for social interaction.
We simulate complex social scenarios to practice our interpersonal skills.
And this entire concept is taken a step further in a massive new January 2025 preprint on ResearchGate. It's called Do We Dream About the People We See Every Day? A longitudinal test of the social simulation theory of dreaming.
That paper is a goldmine.
I loved diving into this one. It was authored by a whole team of researchers, John Balch from Boston University,
Rachel Rader and Chanel Reed from North Central University.
and Patrick McNamara from National University. They conducted this intensive longitudinal study with 124 participants, collecting over 1,000 nights of recalled dream content.
They wanted to know exactly who gets cast in the movie of our dreams.
Now, you would naturally think that we dream the most about the people we spend all day with, right? Like if I sit next to a coworker for 8 hours a day, staring at the same spreadsheets, they should be starring in my dream that night.
That is the logical assumption. In DRE research, it is often referred to as the continuity hypothesis.
The idea that whatever you do in your waking life simply spills over into your dreams.
Right. But Balch and his team found something much more nuanced. They discovered that while daily interaction generally does increase the likelihood of dream appearances for coworkers or casual acquaintances,
The effect is totally reversed for our most important family members, like our parents or our siblings.
reverse.
That blew my mind. That means if you see your mom or your brother every single day, they're actually less likely to show up in your dreams.
It's counterintuitive.
But the moment you are separated from them, maybe you move to a new city or go away to college, they suddenly start making these nightly cameo appearances in your sleep. Why on earth would our brains intentionally do that?
The authors propose that dreams play a profound compensatory role. Human beings are deeply social creatures. Our closest emotional bonds are vital for our psychological survival. We literally need them to thrive.
So when we're separated,
The brain detects a deficit in that crucial emotional bond. To compensate for their physical absence in the real world, the brain actively generates dreams about them.
it is an internal maintenance mechanism designed to strengthen that relationship network even when the people aren't around.
Exactly.
It makes me think of Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway.
Oh, Wilson.
Yes, he is completely isolated on a desert island, separated from his entire social network. So what does he do? He paints a face on a volleyball and names it Wilson.
He literally conjures up a social connection out of thin air to fulfill that primal evolutionary need.
Our brains are basically conjuring up our own personal Wilsons in our sleep to make sure our emotional tethers don't fray when we are far from home.
The castaway analogy is incredibly fitting. It really highlights how sophisticated this internal social simulator is.
And what makes the study even more compelling is they looked at personality traits, right?
Yes, the big 5 personality traits. They wanted to see how individual differences affect this social cast of characters. They found that the personality trait of openness is a strong, positive predictor of daily character appearances in dreams.
So people who are naturally open and curious have highly populated dreamscapes.
Right. But they also found the opposite. They mentioned attachment avoidance acting as a suppressor effect.
What does that actually look like for someone in the real world versus their dream world?
Well, if you're someone who naturally keeps people at arm's length in the waking world,
Someone with high attachment avoidance who maybe dodges deep emotional conversations.
or avoids relying on others, your brain actually mirrors that defensively in your sleep.
Mm.
The study found that attachment avoidance suppresses the appearance of characters,
So your dreamscape might become sparsely populated.
or filled mostly with strangers, because your brain is actively suppressing those compensatory social bonding exercises.
How you psychologically navigate relationships when you are awake fundamentally alters the cast of characters your brain selects for your nightly simulations.
It's a direct reflection of your social operating system.
Okay, so our brains are these hyper-advanced simulators running physical threat scenarios and complex social bonding exercise.
Right.
But that brings us to a massive, glaring question. If dreams are supposed to be these high-level simulators, why aren't they realistic?
Ah, the weirdness factor.
Exactly. If I'm practicing for a social interaction at work, why am I suddenly flying through the office ceiling? And why is the barista from my local coffee shop suddenly a talking dog?
The sheer bizarreness of dreams has baffled scientists for decades. If it is a simulator, why is it so glitchy?
Right.
To answer this, we turn to the overfitted brain hypothesis.
Yeah.
This is truly groundbreaking theory published in the journal Patterns in May 2021.
By researchers Luke Y. Prince and Blake A. Richards from the Montreal Neurological Institute at McGill University.
Alongside the work of Erik Hoel from Tufts University, they suggest that the bizarre, hallucinatory quality of dreams is not a glitch at all.
It is not a bug.
It is a vital, intentional feature.
The way they explain this, using an analogy from artificial intelligence, makes so much sense.
It really clicks when you think about it that way.
Think about training a deep neural network, like the AI that drives an autonomous self-driving car. If you train that car on the exact same perfect, sunny, straight road every single day, the AI becomes what engineers call overfitted.
It memorizes that specific routine perfectly.
But the moment it encounters something slightly new, a detour, a sudden rainstorm, or a stray cow wandering into the road, the AI completely panics and crashes.
Because it hasn't actually learned how to drive, it just memorized one specific boring road.
Exactly.
To prevent an AI from overfitting, software engineers use a technique called data augmentation. They intentionally inject noise, chaos, and corrupted data into the training set.
They force the network to handle weird, unexpected variables.
So it learns to generalize its understanding and become adaptable. The overfitted brain hypothesis argues that human brains face the exact same computational problem.
Because our lives can be incredibly boring. Think about a totally average Tuesday. You wake up to the same alarm, you drink the same coffee from the same mug.
You sit in the exact same traffic on your commute, and you stare at the same spreadsheet for 8 hours.
If your brain only recorded that repetitive daily data, you would become a biological robot. You would be completely overfitted to that specific routine.
You would lose all cognitive flexibility. You would struggle to handle novel, unexpected situations.
So, by presenting the brain with sparse, hallucinatory, and unusual versions of our waking life, dreams force our neural networks to generalize.
They prevent us from becoming too rigidly adapted to our narrow daily routines.
So when you feel stuck in a rut, your brain essentially acts like a late-night Hollywood director who has had way too much coffee.
I love that image.
It looks at your boring Tuesday memories and says, let's throw some wild, abstract plot twists in here. It injects strangeness, like the talking dog barista, into your neural networks while you sleep, combining memories in totally bizarre ways just to keep your neurons agile.
This actually perfectly explains the long-standing anecdotal connection between dreams and creativity.
Oh, how so?
Well, it is why you might plateau on a difficult task, like trying to learn a new video game or practicing a tough chord progression on the guitar, only to wake up the next day and suddenly be able to execute it perfectly.
The dream injected just enough noise and variation to help your brain generalize the pattern and master the skill.
Exactly.
I just love that perspective. The weirdness is the point. But how does all this chaos actually help us emotionally? It is great for learning a video game or avoiding a rut, but what about our mental health and our emotional baggage?
This brings us to the fourth major piece of our deep dive, the ARM model.
Let's dive into the 2025 paper from the International Journal of Dream Research. It's titled Dreaming in Focus by researcher Noah Garver.
He proposes the Associative Rehearsal and Reframing Model, or ARM. Garver provides a unified account that bridges the cognitive weirdness we just talked about with our emotional well-being.
He points out a crucial biological shift that happens during sleep, right?
Yes. During REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement, the phase where most vivid dreaming occurs.
And also in late NREM, or non-rapid eye movement sleep,
The prefrontal regions of the brain are dramatically deactivated.
the prefrontal cortex. That is basically the strict boss of the brain, the executive oversight that keeps us logical, organized, and socially inhibited during the day.
When we go to sleep, the strict boss clocks out and goes home.
With that executive oversight suspended, the brain enters a state of profound disinhibition.
It creates what Garver calls an associative playground. Ideas, memories, and deep-seated emotions that would never be logically connected during your waking hours are suddenly allowed to freely recombine.
And Garver's paper notes that in clinical contexts, this associative reframing function is crucial for addressing trauma.
Or breaking down maladaptive psychological schemas, yes.
There is a fantastic quote from Garver's paper where he writes that dreams are, quote, not idle reveries, but nightly exercises in adaptation.
They literally help us with emotional integration and creative problem solving.
This is the actual hard scientific reason why the old advice of just sleep on a problem works.
You are letting your internal associative playground run a million different chaotic simulations without your strict waking boss getting in the way and shutting down the weird ideas.
It represents a profound shift in how the scientific community views sleep.
For a long time, early neuroscientific theories, like the activation synthesis hypothesis from the 1970s, argued that dreams were just the cortex trying to make sense of random brainstem noise.
They were dismissed as meaningless byproducts of biological housekeeping.
But synthesizing Garver's ARM model,
Mhm.
the overfitted brain hypothesis, and the evolutionary simulation theories, we see a highly structured adaptive architecture.
Dreams actively enhance our emotional resilience, our cognitive flexibility, and our adaptive foresight.
It's incredible how all these fields align.
We have covered some incredible ground today in the Deep Dive Lab. Let's synthesize this journey so you can take this with you. We have 3 massive takeaway messages from our stack of research.
Number 1.
Dreams are an ancient, built-in VR flight simulator. They were designed by evolution to help us practice surviving physical threats, and they've cleverly adapted to help us navigate the complex social anxieties of the modern world.
Number 2.
Our dreams have a heartwarming compensatory function. When we are separated from our loved ones, our brain generates dreams about them, conjuring up our own personal Wilsons to keep those vital emotional bonds strong.
And number 3.
The weirdness of dreams is a feature, not a bug. It is a deliberate mechanism to inject chaos and prevent our brains from becoming rigidly overfitted to our boring daily routines.
If we distill all of this research into one big picture takeaway, it is this. Your sleeping mind isn't just resting, it is working the night shift.
I love that, working the night shift.
It is taking the raw material of your life, the threats, the social bonds, the repetitive routines, and weaving them together with chaos and emotion. It does this to make you a more adaptable, more creative, and more socially connected human being when you finally open your eyes.
That is just incredible. Thank you so much for joining us in the Deep Dive Lab today. If you found this exploration as mind-blowing as we did, please hit that subscribe button to our channel. You really won't want to miss our next deep dive.
But before you go, we want to leave you with one final lingering mystery drawn from the fringes of our source material.
Right. Throughout this discussion, we have treated dreams as highly functional, brilliant adaptations. But in the philosophy of science, there is always a counter-argument.
We must mention philosopher Owen Flanagan's spandrel theory.
A spandrel in biology is a byproduct of evolution that has no function of its own.
For example, the redness of blood or the sound of a heartbeat. They don't actually do anything. They're just inevitable side effects of having hemoglobin and a pumping heart.
Flanagan argues that despite all the impressive patterns we've discussed, dreaming could just be a total biological accident.
An epiphenomena with no real evolutionary purpose at all.
But leaning all the way into the exact opposite direction, we have Sadat Büyük's epic cognition theory, which is a fascinating 2025 preprint we also examined.
Büyük suggests the polar opposite of a biological accident. He proposes that dreams use internal radiation, specifically biophotons, to actively interface with ourselves.
It is a radical, almost sci-fi framework.
Büyük's theory suggests that the symbolic processing we experience in deep dream states doesn't just regulate our psychology. It actually serves as a biological blueprint.
By generating intense symbolic narratives, the dreaming brain might be actively rewriting our epigenetic code to ensure long-term species-level adaptation.
Which brings us to our final thought.
Here's the question we want you to ponder. If our dreams are truly an internal design lab capable of altering our neural networks and behavior, is it possible that the bizarre, vivid dream you had last night wasn't just a reflection of your past?
But your brain actively writing the biological blueprint for your future.
Think about that tonight before you close your eyes.